Hello and welcome to Straight Talk, Supply Chain Insights, the podcast for your supply chain leader who is on the go and wants to be in the know. And now, your host, LoraCecere.
Welcome to Straight Talk with Supply Chain Insights. My name is LoraCecere. I am the founder of Supply Chain Insights, and I hope to bring you insights of what makes supply chains work and how we make them better for the executive that's busy and on the go. It's a podcast series where I interview people that are doing real things for real people and making a difference. And today I'm interviewing Jeff Stites. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Laura.
Jeff, tell the group a little bit about yourself.
I've been in various different supply chain roles for almost all my career and have worked mainly in food companies. I'm currently the CEO for Bubbies homemade ice cream and desserts. We make mochi ice cream product. And for those of you that are not familiar with mochi, it's basically super premium ice cream wrapped by sweetened rice flour dough. And it's delicious and it's portable and it's 90 calories. And I'm pleased to be able to eat at least 2 or 3 every day I'm in the office.
Well, Jeff, we first met when we were working for another ice cream company. And I got to say, I put on 20 pounds when I worked for that ice cream company. So good luck with that, huh?
Absolutely. Yes.
So how long have you been there at Bubbies?
I started in a consulting assignment with them. I've been around the company both as a consultant and as a chief operating officer for almost 2.5 years now. And I moved into the CEO role last February.
And congratulations on the CEO role. Bubbies has great taste to pick you as a CEO. I've always enjoyed you. But tell the group a little bit about your company. How big is it? How many manufacturing plants? Where are you in terms of raising capital?
We have one manufacturing plant in Phoenix, Arizona, and we've grown significantly year over year for the past 3 or 4 years. The company originated in Hawaii and moved to the mainland in 2017, been in Phoenix ever since. And this newest addition to manufacturing floor space will allow us to pretty much double our capacity over the next 3 to 5 years.
So being the chief executive officer, must have had some interesting first 90 days. And you have a bit of a supply chain background, but also a lot of food. Tell me about your first 90 days and how did you help the organization to make better decisions?
The first 90 days was really about just getting aligned on what the 4 key priorities needed to be for last year, and actually those continue into this year. So the first one of those was making sure that we were meeting our financial commitments every month. So we spent a lot of time on making sure that we had the right budgeting process in place and that we were looking at the right numbers every month and that we were scorecarding our performance properly. The second one was around building brand equity, and that's not just a marketing activity. It had to do with the quality of our product, the quality of our packaging. Everything that went into the consumer experience was part of building brand equity. The third one was sales focus, and that is making sure we're not chasing 50 rabbits into the forest and not coming home with dinner. Our product is a super premium product. There are certain retailers in certain locations where it's going to work well and certain locations where it's not going to work well. And so we had to become very disciplined about where we moved product to make sure that we were meeting retailers' needs and getting product where consumers would be able to find it. And then that tied into the fourth one, which was really managing capacity and capability. We have been manufacturing constrained for the most part of Bubbies' existence. Demand has always been slightly ahead of where supply was. And in the deep frozen space, you don't just go build big deep frozen warehouses to be able to warehouse a lot of product because it's just too expensive to do that. So we had to get really good about managing the capacity that we had, making sure that we were deploying it properly. And that's where we came across Optimity, and that's where we got started on really improving our sales and operations planning process and making technology a big part of that.
Yeah, I understand you used to have a lot of red velvet discussions with your CFO. What were they all about?
Yeah. Yeah, early in my consulting practice, I would get a visit from the controller just about every week to talk about how much red velvet inventory we had, either in raw materials or finished goods. And part of that was just, it was just symptomatic of a lack of alignment and a lack of involving the right people in our planning processes. So as we got ready to start down the Optimity path, first thing we did was make sure that our data was cleaned up. But the second thing that we did was make sure that we had views that worked across the organization and that we engaged people from across the organization in this weekly planning process. And because before, finance wasn't engaged in the production decisions that happened on the operations side. And so there wasn't a lot of trust that we were making good decisions or that all things were being considered as we put those plans together.
So was red velvet in demand or was it excess inventory? Why was it such a hot topic?
Red velvet was in demand, but it wasn't in demand at every retailer. And that got back to the whole notion of making sure that we were putting product where it would sell. And so the red velvet conversation was just more about, if we have limited demand for this product, how do we decide what the right finished good inventory and what the right raw material inventory would be?
Well, Jeff, you and I go way back. I won't tell the audience how way back it is, but, several years, right? And alignment is not easy to basically snap your fingers. And I find that the larger the organization, the more M&A, the greater the issue with alignment. So how does a CEO drive organizational alignment? What's your insight?
I think the thing that I had to recognize when I moved into the CEO role was I couldn't put my thumb on the scale in terms of decision making relative to what we were going to produce and how much inventory we were going to carry, because other people in the organization have the skills and are closer to the data. So the first thing that we did was we included the CFO in the process. In fact, I gave him the keys to the sales and operations planning process. And I said, it's just not appropriate for me to do this as the CEO. And he was the one, his organization had the vested interest in red velvet. So he very effectively picked up that challenge. It was right at the time that we were getting Optimity fully in place and we had our views ready to go. And then it was really a cross-functional group between sales, operations, and finance every week. And it's been a real gauge for me in terms of how effective the rest of the organizational development has gone in terms of how well that group has handled situations. The issues that come across that group on a weekly basis are not always easy to solve. We had a major customer who wanted to put a certain product in play at a period of time when we knew we couldn't effectively keep it in stock. And so we were able to get in front of that with the customer, go back and make some changes to that schedule so that we were able to accommodate that demand in a better period. And it worked perfectly well for them. And we didn't disappoint anybody in the process. If you think about what a lot of retailers have had to deal with over the course of this pandemic, it's been a lack of reliable supply of products in. And we're just small enough as a player in a much larger frozen novelty category that it's definitely been to our benefit to meet all of our commitments to our retailers. We had a 98% plus order fill rate all of last year. And that was on top of pretty significant growth from the year prior. And I attribute our ability to do that to making sure that we were following a really effective S&OP process every week. And Optimity was a big part of us being able to accomplish that.
I'm not clear, though, what drives alignment. I hear that, you've got the groups in the same room, but how do you get them all working together?
Well, part of that was taking the various spreadsheets that we had and being able to recreate that data in Optimity and then have one view that group looked at every week. So we still have a sales planning spreadsheet. We still have a finite scheduling spreadsheet. And the finance organization still works off of a financial plan. But what we've been able to do is to be able to get that data integrated into Optimity to where the sales organization, the finance organization are looking at a gross sales number that meets both their expectations, that lines up with what both of their spreadsheet models are are looking for. And once we were able to get people confident that the data that was in Optimity was accurate and it was up to date, then that allowed us to stop having arguments about what the demand number ought to be or what the plant's production rate was going to be. And we could really focus on the inventory issues that we were trying to address, and really work on problems directly and not have a bunch of sidebar conversations about whether the demand number was right or whether the production rate was right.
And why do you think planning is important, and what makes a good plan? You know, a lot of times people will put in planning technology, but when I say what makes a good plan, they look at me like, aren't you the dumbest industry analyst in the world? And you may think that, Jeff, but yeah, you've got some great insight. What makes a good plan?
For us, what makes a good plan is it has to respect the boundaries that are specific to our business. I mean, not every business has the same set of constraints. But for us, over the past year, we've been capacity constrained and we've had capital constraints, and we've had a great desire to exceed our customers' expectations in terms of order fill. So when we're looking at a planning output, when we're looking at different production scenarios, it's always with an eye towards, is this going to have an adverse impact on a customer? Is this the best use of our cash? And are we respecting the equipment and the people that have to produce this product? I've been in places before where it was like, throw the sales number up as high as it can be and manufacturing will figure out how to do it. Well, at some point in time, it's just not achievable. And I think what we've excelled at over the last year is the plans that we've put together were achievable to the point that everybody in the room between sales, finance, and operations could get behind what the plan was and go execute it.
And what are the measurements that you use to say, is it a good plan?
Well, for us right now, it's keeping our equipment utilization and people utilization at no more than 6 days in a week. So, we're very adamant about that. Our equipment, we need to be able to protect planned downtime, both for equipment and for people. That's been a big factor in it. And then we have to be able to afford the plan in terms of the amount of inventory that we carry, both in finished goods and in terms of raw materials.
So what did you learn through this experience that you'd share with others?
I think one of the things I've noticed over time is it really, there is no one size fits all when it comes to planning processes. So, when you're looking at the technology, when you're looking at the processes that you're going to use for supply chain planning opportunities, it's you have to make sure that you pick a technology that fits your application. We're not a huge shop. And so I needed a technology that was going to work without, having to have a whole department of IT people be able to support it. And we definitely found that with Optimity. The second thing is you got to talk in a language that everybody understands when you get around the sales and operations planning table. So your units matter. For us, it's pieces and dollars. In other companies, the language may be different, but I've seen planning processes fail just because sales, operation, and finance couldn't pick a unit of measure that they could all agree was going to be used in common, and that just slowed the process down. So I think being able to find units that everybody understands is a key part of that process, especially as organizations get larger and more diverse. And then the third thing would be really look for solutions within the work and the process and not get focused on just what the problems are. So, we had a little bit of a history of conflict between the channels at times, but I was really proud of the way the organization came together, especially once we were looking at the same data model around, let's go find solutions for this. The VP of operations likes to say, we get a lot of yes solutions. Yes, we can do that if the following conditions are true, instead of just saying, no, we can't do that. And so I think that's really helped us. Having that kind of attitude and that kind of mindset in each of the functions has been really helpful to make this planning process work as well as it has.
So Jeff, anything I didn't ask you want to tell me?
Ice cream is still the best product I've ever worked with. It's certainly not the easiest, but you give me a good strawberry mochi at 3:00 in the afternoon, and I'll pretty much run through whatever walls need to be run through.
Well, you can ship the strawberry mochis here because I'm ready to jump high walls. And I understand
Absolutely.
that, we did a little discussion that because of supply chain and keeping reliability high, you were able to add some accounts. You want to share that?
Yeah, we were able to add a very large retailer in the Southeast, and it was as a result of our ability to service our orders through the summer. And there's nothing that's more rewarding. I can tell you that supply chain group took great pride in the fact that they were able to help the VP of sales close that deal because of our performance at the order fill level. So, and those are things I think for me, having been in supply chain roles my entire career, it's easy for me to see those connections and to be able to point those things out and make those organizational wins and not just functional wins.
Well, Jeff, this is Straight Talk with Supply Chain Insights, and maybe we'll have Bubbies at our conference this year, and you can be there because
it would be a great pleasure.
All righty. Anyway, this is LoraCecere with Straight Talk with Supply Chain Insights, interviewing Jeff Stites, who is now the Chief Executive Officer of Bubbies, talking about how to make a good decision and drive alignment. Until next time.